Hey YouTube, just making some Lugol's iodine today. The easiest way that I know how to do it is to use a scale, zero it off with some paper, and then add 10 milligrams of potassium iodide to your jar, and then dilute it with 100 milliliters of, it has to be distilled water. It's just for purity purposes. You need to have distilled water. It will dissolve pretty quickly within a few seconds. And once that's dissolved, you would add 5 milligrams of potassium iodine crystals. The potassium iodine crystals are tougher and they're much more solid. They take a lot longer to dissolve. And what usually most people do is dissolve it overnight or around 10 hours. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just adding the potassium iodine crystals into the already dissolved potassium iodide crystals. And you'll see here that after a little bit of swishing around in the jar, those crystals are still there. So it's going to take a while, at least 10 hours, I would say. And you have Lugol's iodine. I don't use a stir stick, but if you do, make sure it's not metal. I just swish it around and it dissolves just fine by the next day. I forgot to say, I store the Lugol's iodine into a glass dropper bottle. It's actually a lot easier to dose yourself this way because the droppers, each drop comes out as about 12.5 milligrams when you make 5% Lugol's iodine. And the recommended dose is about 50 milligrams a day. That is according to not your everyday average doctor, but doctors who've specialized in observing people with iodine deficiencies, which is 95% of the population. So the dose is to work your way up to it. It's not to just go ahead and take 50 milligrams of Lugol's iodine right off the bat, especially because of the healing crisis that can happen, or the detoxifying effects that can happen when it starts knocking toxins that are in your body out, and that will create sometimes a reaction of dizziness, headache, just feeling a little bit unwell sometimes. These are symptoms of what they call a healing crisis. So you don't want to go too heavy too soon with Lugol's iodine. The best way to do it is to just add a few drops of water. Maybe start with 2 drops in your glass of water, drink that, see how you feel, and then just titrate up maybe every 4 or 5 days until you get to a place where you're comfortable. If at any time you start feeling unwell or dizzy or just not feeling well, then you can just go back and hold at that level until you're starting to feel better. Selenium is a big one that sometimes people need to take in order to be able to tolerate the high dose of 50 milligrams a day of Lugol's iodine. But just remember that a little bit of Lugol's iodine is better than none. So if you only get to 25 milligrams, don't feel worried about it. Just take it as it's better to be, in my opinion, it's much better to be taking it than to not be taking it at all. And I think I'm just going to list on the screen the benefits to taking it. While I'm listing the benefits and all the places and all the ways that Lugol's iodine has been used over the centuries, I will say a little story. When I got here to Canada after being in the Dominican Republic, I randomly out of nowhere had this really bad tooth pain, and I thought it was a cavity, but it actually wasn't. It was what was it now? So in any case, the infection was going to cost me supposedly $2,000 to have a root canal. And they made it sound like it was a real favor to have a root canal done. But I mean, do your own research. I do not at all agree with root canals. There's a lot of research that has shown that people down the line after a root canal end up with heart problems because the infection doesn't really ever go away. It just gets sort of pushed up and into other parts of your body. It begins to make its way throughout your body and over time can affect your heart. So, anyways, the story, as the story goes, so I politely said, thank you very much for telling me my options, either pull out my tooth or get a root canal done. And he proceeded to give me a prescription for, I think it was amoxicillin, I'm not sure, but usually they'll prescribe you an antibiotic of some kind to help get rid of the infection. And so I just basically crumpled that up, didn't use it, used Lugol's iodine instead, and was perfectly fine after using it, just like the way you'd use an antibiotic when you need it for an infection. You want to take it, several drops, several times a day, and consistently for 7 to 10 days. And that's what I did. And the infection was completely gone and no more pain. And so the Lugol's iodine saved me thousands of dollars just in that one case. It's not something you want to be without. It's something you want to have in your medicine cabinet, especially with all these illnesses going around these days. I find Lugol's iodine, no matter what sickness it is going around, if it doesn't stop it, it will at least reduce the symptoms and make your recovery time much faster. So that's just my opinion, of course. I'm not a medical professional. And so I hope that this was helpful. And again, if there's any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer what I know. I hope everybody's doing well. God bless you.